All right, JAG University, episode 23, the Michael Jordan episode. We made it so far here with Agent Marco Luna. Marco, appreciate you. 101, what I wanted to talk about specifically the adult daycares.
Sure.
Adult daycare centers.
Yeah.
I'll throw it out there. You're the social services expert. I know you don't want to be put in a box, but if you insure over 70 adult daycares, you're considered the expert.
Yeah.
So that's on your resume. But go into it because it's one of those things that you drive by them, they're popping up everywhere. They have been for the last few years. Can you define what an adult daycare is?
So an adult daycare center, I'm not going to put them in a box per se, like a community center, very different, but they do have some correlation, activities, social, physical stimulation. And so when you put that all together, that's what pretty much makes up an adult daycare center.
So it's more of the mental, I guess it's more of a focus on the mental health side of it.
Sure.
But there's not, now when you look at it from how it's differing from an ALF or from a medical center. Right. In terms of, there's not necessarily medical treatments going on.
No, at all. It's more like the adult daycare industry fits a certain box. The ALFs have their own lane. The adult daycares, home health care agencies, they all play a pivotal role with the participants. That's what pretty much how they classify them, participants that attend those centers. Eventually, they might outgrow those adult daycares in terms of their health declining, and so they might have to go to an ALF, or they might have to receive home health care services at home and not be able to go to an adult daycare center. So, yeah, the adult daycare industry in itself is booming. We talked about it earlier about, during the Obama years, it kind of blew up. Right now, it's continuing to grow, but it kind of leveled off this past year because of COVID. But I looked it up. By 2030, they're expecting every baby boomer to be the age 65 or older.
Yeah.
So that only tells you that there's enough business to go around for these adult daycare centers to consider opening up more. I'm a little biased about it now that I'm on pretty much both sides. I insure them, but I also know them personally. So in their aspects, in their eyes, they look at it as, man, there's an adult daycare popping up next to me,
And competition. Sure.
But that particular industry, believe it or not, they don't view it that way. Maybe the newcomers, but the old school people that have been in it for the last 5 to 10 years, they all communicate with each other, which is very interesting.
It is. It's and you've done a great job of building your own book of business in that specific field. And it was one of those things where your biggest cheerleaders were your current clients referring other adult daycares.
Yeah, it was a trickle-down effect, that's for sure. Well, immediately when I got part of the Alzheimer's Association of Miami, which was in 2013, 2014, and I was part of the committee, one of the board members owned an adult daycare center. And she was my first adult daycare center. She's still my client. And I talked to her pretty much every other day. And she referred me one daycare, and then it just snowballed effect,
right.
But yeah.
And talk about that specifically. You knowing both sides, like you obviously from knowing them personally, visiting, insuring so much adult daycare centers. Like any tips or what do you look for? Like if you were going to bring your own grandparents or your parents in a situation where they need to be in that box, right, for their specific needs.
Yeah.
What are some things you would look for?
Cleanliness being one. Now that we went this past year with COVID, there's certain things that have to be implemented for them to reopen. Special lighting that has to be installed to kill the virus. They can't turn those lights on during hours. They have to do it before hours and after hours. Pretty much the ratio right now is between 1 and 6, meaning there has to be 1 employee per 6 participants.
Okay.
So you kind of want to see that too. You want to see the movement, the lighting, cleanliness. Is the owner involved? Are they behind the scenes or are they actually out there, mingling around with the participants? You kind of want to see that movement in there. What kind of activities do they have going on?
Yeah.
These activities that they do provide for in these centers, they all play a huge role and the mental stimulation for these adults, you know. So yeah, that's something that I would look for if I was taking my grandparents or my parents to an adult daycare center.
And obviously, we're in that 1 year anniversary mark, unfortunately, with COVID and what happened. I mean, would you say now with all the changes, because that obviously when that happened, and you could tell your personal experiences, it was a big effect, right?
There's a shift.
There was a shift in terms of
Yep.
what happened and people staying home, afraid to go to the centers. But would you
Right.
say they're safer now, post-COVID, than they were pre-COVID?
With the stuff that they had to do before opening their doors, I agree. I think they do, and I think it's safer now just because, for example, getting into their vans, they have to fog down their vans and sanitize the van before they board and after they board. So they're doing that twice or 3 times a day. So just that little nugget there, you know, you could tell that there's certain things that have been implemented to create that security for a participant to be, you know, involved at their center.
Right.
I have heard through several daycares that some participants don't want to go back because they just don't feel comfortable. They want to get, you know, the injection first before they go back. So I hear both sides, you know, but looking at it firsthand, I think that they have done a lot from what they were doing before to now that has created that layer of protection for a participant to be involved at the center.
Now, on the other side, for the business owners, right, we're looking at how to protect them, right, and ensuring their business. Looking at it, what do you think is the biggest mistake that adult daycares do as far as their insurance portfolio?
Hiring practices. I think that that's something that has been pretty loose in the last couple of years. They've kind of been just bringing people from the street, applying, and they get hired. They kind of haven't been really vetting those employees the way that I think that they should now. I think that they're implementing certain things, you know, running background checks 5 to 7 years, crucial.
Well, it's getting with some of the claims that have happened too, right? A lot of these EPLI claims are starting to trickle up.
Right.
When things happen, there's a little bit of a shift where you're right, before it's a little bit looser, but now you have employees, right, who are, you know, it's just the employer practice liability where the employees sue the employers. I know that specific field is starting to tick up, as well as when you're hiring practices too, like the sexual abuse and molestation claims too.
Yep.
And again,
Yep.
a lot of this stuff is duty to defend, right? And as a business owner, you gotta kind of make sure you're covered in lieu, right, if some of these things come in the mail. But
Right. And those sexual abuse and molestation claims, thankfully, I have never experienced one in 8 years. But there are certain measures that daycares have that put in, example, a camera or cameras installed in their facility that they're monitoring 24 all day. You know, there's not a day that they're not looking at those cameras. And, you know, when someone feels, I guess maybe the tension of a camera looking at them, they're kind of going to think twice about doing something inappropriate.
Or even the intent there. It also protects the business owners as well.
Yeah,
it's more
absolutely.
for the proof.
Yeah.
If someone were to accuse you of X,
Right.
you have more further proof to defend you as well.
Right, yeah. So there's just so many moving parts with an adult daycare center that maybe people don't really know about. It's definitely, I think, something that's going to continue evolving. It's going to continue growing in Miami-Dade County and beyond. But I think they're in a box that they're going to continue filling this gap, that these participants and the family members of these participants, whether it's a caretaker or family members, they're going to start opening up their eyes a little bit more and seeing the role of what an adult daycare could play for their parents to try to kind of pretty much slowing down the progress of them deteriorating with their mental health. That's pretty much what I think that the family members are going to be able to kind of see the value of an adult daycare.
Yeah, it's interesting that, you know, the resident expert, Marco Luna, adult daycares. It's funny, I've learned from you in terms of what else is out there, pros and cons, and over the overall from the insurance perspective, but now looking at it from a business owner side, and then into the spot too, where we're going to have our family members go visit. It's interesting having both perspectives on either side.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a beautiful niche because I've been in it now for 8 years, but it's something that holds very dear to my heart because I see both sides and I talk to these people every day. They're clients and friends, you know, that I've developed, and I'm just looking forward to their growth, you know.